Mr. Armendariz will give your report.
Hi everybody, Happy New Year, 2012. Hopefully this year will be, we'll see how it goes from here on out. First of all, I would like to bring to your attention that this meeting is being videotaped. So, videotape, which I think is going to be helpful for families that are not able to attend the meeting because they have so many other things going on in their lives and could not make this meeting. So somehow we will be able to have this available to families, possibly through the WALE website or something like that.
Yeah, we'll put it up.
And so if you know anybody that might not be here tonight that would really like to do this, then you can go to the WALE website. We are Lincoln Elementary. I just want to bring up a few things. The first item that I want to talk about, will be very short, is we were fortunate again this year to receive a very generous $2,000 grant from the Mid-North Association. So I would like to thank the Mid-North Association for giving Lincoln Elementary a $2,000 grant. And this will go towards the continued building of our science program and our science labs. The second item, which I'm so happy to report, is not tonight, but in the future, if you ever venture up to room 301, that is our grade 7 and 8 science lab. Through the generous donations of Friends of Lincoln, partly a little touch from the CPS budget, and from some of our parents who have were able to get some vendors to donate items to our science lab. The science lab has moved tremendously from a 1939 lab to a 2012 lab. So we have new tables, new chairs, all brand new, custom-made cabinetry up there. The floors have been sanded. Gas lines that were piping out of the floor that were no longer working have been yanked out. And now we are going to be in the process of putting in additional sinks for our 7th and 8th grade students to do more hands-on experiments. So I would like to invite you at our winter open house, which is the end of January. Even if your child is in kindergarten, venture upstairs to room 301 and look at all the wonderful work that has been done through the generosity of the Friends of Lincoln contributions. So I'm really happy about that. The second item that I want to talk about is, last meeting we touched base, I talked to you guys about the Chicago Public Schools has a new policy initiative for the longer school day, which I'm sure all of you have heard about. And we are going to, the PPLC, which is the teacher arm of the school that helps me make decisions, we have been meeting talking about what does this longer school day, what will the longer school day look like for Lincoln? And over winter break, I've come up with about 40 scenarios of different schedules, and I'm going to share that with the PPLC this coming Friday. And then we will also have, I believe Erica has been communicated, an LSC arm who will work with Katie Fairbank and Greg Thompson, who are heads. Could you raise your hands? They are the chairs of our curriculum committee, and they will reach out to the parent community and get ideas for how we are going to restructure the school for next year. As you may know, we will increase the number of minutes per day for the students. All students will have to be in school for 7.5 hours a day versus the 6.25 hours per day. The board is also proposing a possible 10 more school days for the year. And there's also discussion of having all schools on one track, possibly a year-round track. Okay? So, but that is not really agreed, but these are things that are being discussed. But one thing that is for sure is we will have a longer school day. The Chicago Teachers Union, I don't believe, has agreed to this yet, so I don't know what that means for next year. So look for the Principal's Digest information about that coming up, about information about longer school day options. I've come up with a lot of really interesting options that I think are possibilities and enticing. So look forward to the communication and for the curriculum committee meetings if you'd like to attend those meetings as well. I think I'm going to limit it to that and turn them over to Erica. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Alderis. So, as you all know, this evening, we have invited members of CPS. I originally issued an invitation to Mr. Broussard just before the break to come and talk to us about, after he issued a letter that went out to everybody, that the LaSalle proposal, the original proposal, is off the table. To come here and talk to us, because I know that we've been talking among ourselves, and there are a lot of really good ideas I think that have been percolating. I don't know if CPS has a new proposal yet. They haven't communicated that to us. So I think, I don't know exactly how you want to do this format, but Mr. Broussard had another engagement this evening, and he has sent two of his representatives, Adam Anderson, who's Officer of the CPS Portfolio Planning and Strategy, right there, and Andrea Hall, who is the Senior Family and Community Engagement Manager. And so I don't know if you guys want to come up and if you have something that you'd like to say first, or if you'd like to just get started with hearing maybe some of the ideas that parents have for solving what the LSC sees essentially as a two-part problem. Our overcrowding problem, we need an immediate solution for next year. I think there's been no doubt about that. CPS sent a representative to come and walk the halls. I think he spent about 3.5 hours here one day, and the report he gave back to CPS was, you cannot fit one more child in this building. So I was very happy to hear that, because I think that's the reality, and I'm glad to hear that that's been acknowledged. So I think the first part of what CPS needs to do is to figure out what we're going to do for the next school year, since obviously a new building can't be built by next year, or anything else quite that, or in addition onto this building. And then, of course, we need a long-term plan. What's going to happen 3 years down the road, especially given all the additional residential units that are going up in our district. And I think we've expressed to CPS, and I don't know if this has been heard, we'd like to have a solution in place, at least for the short term, by March. Because we need to plan, Mr. Armendariz needs to plan, we need to plan for classrooms. If we're going to be using space in another building, we need to work out all the details. And I know that CPS often puts us in the position of having to do that in August. We'd like not to have to do that. We'd like to be able to start making plans as of this spring. So with that said, Mr. Anderson, do you want to
I'll say a few
get up and say what you're after?
You can take the mic out of that stand.
I can yell pretty loud. So first I want to just thank the LSC for giving me a chance, and my colleagues a chance to come listen tonight. Really what I want to do before we jump in, I want to spend most of the time hearing from the community. What I want to do is give a quick update to where we are in the process, so that we all know kind of where we stand as CPS and what we're going to do going forward to work with Principal Armendariz and all of you to continue to come to a solution. And we as CPS would agree that we need to look both short and long term to make sure that students at Lincoln Elementary have an effective learning environment, because they clearly have an effective principal, but an effective learning environment starting fall 2012. Again, my name is Adam Anderson. I'm the Officer of Portfolio Planning and Strategy. My role in the portfolio office is really twofold. One is to be the lead on a number of actions that you're probably seeing in the news right now in terms of what schools are we going to close, what schools we're going to phase out, where do we want to look at opening new schools, to help ensure that every student in every community has access to a high-performing seat. That has clearly been a focus of late, but my other responsibility is to work with schools such as Lincoln that are high-performing schools that have overcrowding issues to solve problems such as these. Because we do want to figure out how to make sure, again, students are in schools that are not overcrowded, and that school models that are proven to be performing, and school leaders and school councils that are proven to be performing are celebrated and scaled up and replicated as possible as part of the long-term plan. Now, I know representatives from CPS were here last month to discuss a recommendation to place a boundary around LaSalle and change where students were going to attend. I was not here. I was at LaSalle, and I see a few familiar faces in the crowd from that particular meeting. That was, as we said that night, a recommendation. We've heard from the community both at LaSalle and Lincoln, and we've taken a step back, and we want to re-engage the community to get input on what the ideas are that you have, what are the concerns that you have. I have read the letter that was prepared by the LSC, so any additional comments in addition to that. And really tonight is about us listening to you as a community. And I'm willing to just listen. I'm willing to have more of a back and forth dialogue, whatever the LSC and the community wants. I'm happy to tailor the conversation to what you need. But then we can come out of this meeting where we have a better understanding of what the Lincoln Elementary School community is looking for. And then I can be the primary point of contact. I've been working with the principal, but I can be the primary point of contact over, let's say, the next month. If there's any other input that the community has that you want to feed to me, and we will come back in the future. I'm willing to say at the next LSC meeting, but work with the LSC to say whatever the right timing is, to come back with a more thought out, either set of solutions or proposal, depending on where we are at in the process. I agree that time is of the essence here. We would also like to push towards a March resolution. So I'm willing to work with the LSC to move that process along. So that's where we are. I would say in terms of ideas, we're open to hear anything. We're open to discuss anything. And that's where we stand at this point in time. We do want to move as quickly as possible to come to a solution. We do want to see what we can have in place for fall 2012. We do want to think about what we can do in the long term. And we do want to get the community input to help us make that recommendation and come back with something that incorporates all of your thoughts. So that's the process, and I'm willing to run this in the best way we see fit.
Well, I think it's asked that anybody who has an idea that they'd like to present to come up to the microphone the way we did last time, and I'll have you sort of moderate, but Mr. Anderson, it's up to you to do what you will with what you hear. Go ahead.
I don't know, is it on or not?
Yes, and please say your name.
Yeah, it's Dale Roski. We have two young in kindergarten and second grade here at Lincoln. God, it's like deja vu all over again. Here we are, everyone said. In terms of us trying to approach solutions or coming up with solutions individually, within teams, organizations, community groups, it's helpful to know kind of what the parameters are. And last month, the meeting, which I'm not sure if everyone else had the impression, but I got the impression that it wasn't so successful in terms of the message and then the aftermath. But one of the clear messages from last month is the COO of CPS said he would not spend one penny on building additional facilities for Abraham Lincoln, given the view of CPS that there was additional excess capacity, taking into account actual current capacity as well as the magnet issue. So I think we would want to know from you, or I want to know from you all, is that still the position of CPS? Because it's hard to craft potential solutions without knowing what the parameters are.
Right. And I would say part of the rationale behind the proposal that we brought to the table was that perspective. I think in coming back and discussing what we heard here and what I heard at LaSalle, I would say that we have reopened the possibility of investing dollars in a solution for Lincoln.
So you've reopened your wallet.
We have reopened the possibility of taking out. So
Write that down.
I want to be clear. Everything is on the table. I'm not saying that will be a component of the solution, but I have heard very clearly that we need to have everything on the table to come to a full solution.
Right.
When you say everything's on the table.
No, sir, if you have something you want to say, please. Yeah, just like everybody else.
This isn't really so much
Eric
question.
Curry.
Eric Curry, sorry.
Are you sure that's on? It doesn't sound like it's on.
How about that? So not really a question, but you talk about looking to solicit the input of the community. I just want to let you know, there's been a ton of ideas flying around among the Lincoln community. Some of it in emails back and forth between people, but a lot of it on this Facebook group site that's been set up to collect these kinds of ideas for WALE, and we've had people emailing the WALE website with ideas. So it's not a standing start at this point. There's been so much stuff flying around that it's actually hard to keep track of all the ideas. And I think a lot of people are just spitballing things and throwing things out, and there's healthy commentary back and forth. But and I don't want to try to summarize all those ideas here, but I do want to make sure that those ideas get introduced into this conversation somehow, and that you guys have access to the dialogue that's already been taking place over the last month.
No, absolutely, and Principal Armendariz and I have sat down, so if there are other channels where ideas have gone through that I wouldn't have gotten through that, I want to make sure that I get those, so I can access the Facebook group and connect with the LC chair and get that.
Okay.
Eric, have you been collecting any of this stuff in some way that maybe you could give to me or to Mark, and so it's all sort of ending up at the same place?
Yes, we have been scraping ideas off the Facebook group and putting them into just kind of an informal repository, and the suggestions that have been coming in through email. So we do have that, in one spot, so you don't have to read through 9,000 Facebook posts to try to ferret out the suggestions. And that way we can avoid all the bad stuff about CPS.
I've heard and seen it all.
Eric, quick question. I think one of the things that I'm looking for are timelines. And is there a way that maybe you could get us, because I talked with you or Susie, I can't remember winter break, right before winter break started, to get this list of that anything that should surface from your website, from the WALE Facebook. Is there a way that you can get me by like a week from Friday or 2 weeks?
Yeah, we can get it to you by the end of the week.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's not a big deal. Again, it's not a polished PowerPoint with this is just literally a compilation of things people have been throwing against the wall.
Cut and paste.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
That's great, excellent.
Hi, I'm Lori Miller. I'm also part of the WALE community. Further to Dan's comment, has there been any other additional talk about the Children's Memorial site? I feel like we can't come up with solutions until we know whether those units are in or out at this point.
So we actually have also been talking with Alderman Smith about what are the options in the community, and all of that is on the table. We actually have a real estate group looking into it in terms of feasibility study. So
I understand that, but I think we need to know whether there's going to be 800 potential units and additional children coming in
Right.
before anybody can come up with a solution, because we don't know what we're planning for right now.
right. And so from that perspective, our demographics team's looking at it from things like where we could put potential space in developing facilities. Our real estate team's looking at that. So when I come back, or as I continue to get information, I'm happy to have those discussions to keep the
I
information.
think I'm not being clear. Is the boundary going to change so that Children's is out of our district, or is it going to remain in our district no matter what?
Once we know what the demographic projections are related to that, then just like you, we will have a better idea of what could potentially happen to Lincoln's boundary, if anything, which we would then communicate to this group.
Do we know when that's going to happen?
It's part of our ongoing demographic analysis. Again, I'm happy when I come back in February or whenever the right LC meeting is to provide an update on that topic specifically.
I'm actually going to ask a follow-up question on that, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, Mr. Anderson, or maybe somebody else does. Is the plan for Children's written in stone?
Oh, no. I can answer that, Erica. No, I mean, some of you have been to our community meetings on Children's. The developer has given one presentation of potential tentative plans to the community. And we're still and now he's in the process of trying to draw it up and make it a little firmer. And those plans often include the general sizes of the units. Is it going to be studios, or is it going to be 3,000 square foot units? So all of that is, right now, I mean, I haven't seen a second draft of the plan yet. So everything is still subject to negotiation.
Eric, can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Thank you, Erica. Adam, I would never tell you how to do your job, but I will. The way to maximize your leverage, and understanding it's not always about leverage, but the way to maximize your negotiating position with the developer is tomorrow morning, next Monday, you take a pen and you district Memorial Hospital out. And if Memorial Hospital wants to seek to be redrawn into the district, there's something they're going to need to bring to the table. So
I appreciate the soft recommendation. Yes, that's a thoughtful point, thank you.
The next question?
My name is Kamal Jared. I just had a quick question. When you said that everything is still on the table, does that mean that the LaSalle proposal is still on the table as well?
I'd say we're discussing every potential solution.
Could you please get to a microphone? For some reason, it's so difficult to hear you over here.
Okay, let's,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
is there a check
I've been starting my New Year's resolution I'm working on right now.
That's not quite the Oscar you were hoping for.
I know, right? So just I think I'll be good. So I said every solution's on the table right now, but that's part of this conversation. If there's feedback on that or any of the other ideas that you've either heard about or not heard about, I would like to hear those.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
My question was just that when it came back that the LaSalle proposal was not accepted, can you let us know what issues you guys saw in terms of why it wasn't?
So to clarify what we've taken off the table is we said we're not going to make any changes to the magnet status of LaSalle, which relates to the resources going to the Language Academy. Again, the boundary is a separate conversation from that and is part of the broader solution. I can be very clear though to say that is not a current recommendation. It is part of the broader set of things that we're looking at.
Being short as a problem. My name is Rachel Goodstein. I live in Webster. I live within this school district. I don't have children here, but in 2007 I ran for office. And I was concerned then about education in the community. I was concerned then about the Children's Memorial site, which is now being planned. Back then I knew it was coming. This building we're in, I guess, is almost 100 years old or so. It seems to me the responsibility of the public school system is to plan for next fall and maybe for the children who are here now, but to take a much longer viewpoint and to put pressure on the developers to land bank, to build a new school, and to land bank school for the future, because this is a highly congested area. Land values probably only go up. This is a once-in-a-century opportunity to put pressure on someone to provide all of the public facilities that will be necessary. So that's why I came here, so when you come and you think about it, you think really long-term. It's a 6-acre parcel. Many buildings are going to come down. Some of the buildings are going to remain standing. So there's a real opportunity to solve this because there will be people coming to this community who will want to have the same quality education. My neighbors had children come here because it truly was a neighborhood school. It's like the school I went to. It's the kind of school that should be everywhere in the city. And the fact that the 43rd Ward has good public schools, they shouldn't be dismantled. And that's what I look at this whole process as being as a taxpayer. It's a dismantlement of LaSalle and of Lincoln, and we should not let that happen.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leslie, and we're a new family at Lincoln, and we have 3 kids in the system. And if it's we moved into the district for the school, and it has exceeded our expectations. My question is I think first of all, you brought great news tonight, saying that everybody agrees that there's a problem and this demands an immediate solution, so that's great to hear. My question is tomorrow, when we started the school in August or September, when we started school in September, the classrooms were at 28. People continued to register. The teachers were scrambling. Our wonderful principal was scrambling. And then the numbers kept growing and growing in a small size of a classroom, which someone said is not at fire capacity. I find that so hard to believe. But tomorrow, if a family moves in with 5 kids, are they accepted in registration? Are they enrolled, or are teachers continuing to have to make the accommodation? Because I know other schools in the system get to capacity and they cannot take another student. What happens tomorrow if people continue to enroll and move into the district? That's my question.
Yeah, and I can check with our enrollment team and specifically how we would handle that situation.
I can answer. The policy is if we get 5 kids tomorrow or 80 kids tomorrow, okay? If they can prove residency for this attendance area, then we must, according to CPS policy, put a seat under their rear ends in a classroom.
Okay, so then what does CPS do about that tomorrow? So they don't have to continue doing that when there isn't a seat to give and there isn't room in the building and it's dangerous.
Can I respond to that, just information? Historically, how CPS has responded, CPS has fired the principal if the principal doesn't put a seat under the child.
What did you say?
Okay, well, it's a new day at CPS, and I know that they're not going to have that happen. So what solution can we bring to that problem if kids continue to enroll and our teachers and our principal in the classroom is so burdened? That's my question.
If that happened, we would work with the principal to deal with it as it came along. But we are here to talk about fall 2012 and beyond.
Hi, Mark. Residential?
No, as I said, this is the beginning of the community process. The tentative proposal that's been put forth is to have that property be mixed use, retail, primarily retail and residential. And as many members of the community who have been coming to the meetings have said, there are requests to have some of the property put away for the school. We asked for a proposal and they gave us back a preliminary idea of, their idea was if you converted the Nellie Black building, which is the building on north of Fullerton, to a school, they said that would cost about $20 million. 38? Oh, all right, it was more. I'm not wild about that idea because it's north of Fullerton, which I don't think is convenient. But the current plan is a mix of residential and retail, very common for our kind of area. But there's still a ways to go on this. So we're going to be having more meetings, expecting people to have their say.
So to be clear, that site has to be rezoned
Oh,
through the
yes.
zoning planning commission in order for them to allow residents to live there, is that
Oh,
correct?
yes.
Right, so it's zoned for a
It's
hospital.
zoned for a hospital, so you can't build anything on that without a full process. There's all kinds of information on my website, Ward 43. We've had 2 large meetings and lots of meetings in the community organization, and there's a lot more to come.
So if the planning commission doesn't allow residential units at that location, there will be 0 residential units at that location, right?
Of course. Not sure that's I don't know if that's a good solution for our community, but it's all up to the planning commission, and ultimately I have to introduce an ordinance in city council to approve that, which is why aldermen have a lot of power over development. And I see a lot of input from the community, which is another one of the reasons why I'm here today, is to hear what you have to say, because I want to advocate for Lincoln Elementary with Chicago Public Schools. And I was hoping that we were going to hear a lot of these ideas for additions and things like that I know are out there, so I'm looking forward to hearing.
Yeah, I mean, and given that everyone in this room who purchased property in the Lincoln boundaries purchased their home as a residentially zoned unit, it seems more like a takings from anyone in the room to be drawn outside of the boundaries of Lincoln, much more so than to allow a developer to get a zoning variance.
Well, as you know, I supported not changing the boundaries, and I continue to support that. So, looking forward to it.
So then, just a proposed solution, so moving off of that topic, there's 2 elementary schools within Lincoln boundaries right now, right, LaSalle and Lincoln, and, you know, when I look at this, I used to work in development, when I look at this site, it's very landlocked, right, there's no capacity. LaSalle has a huge open area on their site. Clearly, it's a lot easier to build on open land than it is on top of a 100-year-old school building. So would a possible option, I know it would be disruptive in the short term, but would a possible option be to relocate Lincoln at LaSalle, add significant incremental capacity at LaSalle, and move LaSalle into this building, and they would have sufficient capacity in this building?
Something we will consider.
I have a question from Bob Schnall.
One of the central themes of the last meeting was about all the excess capacity in the neighboring schools. And as the LSC, and I'm sure there's a bandy about in the community, is in terms of short-term solutions, in order to come up with some maybe creative ideas and generate other ideas, is there a way, not necessarily now, but in the next few days, to get us some specifics in terms of where that excess capacity is? Is there, we got numbers in generality, but in order to try to help us drive a good short-term solution, maybe getting some detailed numbers there would be helpful.
Yeah, so the on December 30th or so, CPS released space utilization standards in school-by-school reports. So if you go to a school site on the CPS website, there's actually a report for that school in terms of what's the capacity of that school, what's the current enrollment of that school. So it gives the data behind that. And if
say like in areas like elementary versus middle.
it doesn't get to the grade level, but I believe it has it broken down by who's in the area versus out of the area. And I'm happy, I have that data readily available when it is out there, so I'm happy to help work quickly pull it together if somebody wants to reach out to me. It is, again, SB 630 is a law that made us, that allowed us to put this stuff public, so it's out there, and we're happy to get that for you to help aid in decision.
May I follow up on that, John? We were told there was excess capacity at the last meeting at Ostermeyer, and I guess there is capacity, but it's only in 5th grade and above. They've got 8 pre-K classes right now, so if we could also know in terms of the lower grades where there's capacity, I think that'd be more helpful to us.
Yeah, so we do think about that when we consider these ideas, but in terms of what's readily available, it's why I said we can talk about potentially looking at more detailed information.
I'm actually going to follow up that with a question. One of the things that we talked about on the council is, I had heard, just through the grapevine, quite frankly, from somebody at LaSalle, that there were 200 empty seats at Alcott. And what I'm thinking is, does it even matter what the grade level capacity is if we could just get 4 classrooms to borrow from another building? I mean, is that something that CPS will allow us to do?
So that's one of the options that we're looking at, just in general, not necessarily Alcott specifically. The challenge that we're running into on that one, this gets right back to the same Senate bill that was referenced, SB 630, is in order to locate 2 schools within the same building, we would have had to have put it through the same process that we're currently putting the schools that we're closing and phasing out through. Because anytime we co-locate 2 schools, so we are exploring ways to potentially work around that, but on the surface at least, for fall 2012, taking part of Lincoln and putting it into another building is against SB 630.
What about in a non-school building?
So we are looking at non-school options. I know Alderman Smith provided us with a list of potential options that we're starting to look into. Those are ideas that we're starting to look at in terms of short-term leasing options and things like that are broader considerations.
I'm Kathy Nardi, and I'm a mom here at the school. But now, my question was all about what has just gone on, and I think I've just answered it. One of the thoughts that has been going around is there's another school in the area, which is a magnet school, and that's Newberry. And the rumor mill said that they had 200 empty seats. And so even if CPS thought it was unwise to demagnetize the school, couldn't we, for a quick short term, because whatever happens with children is a very long-term thing. That is not going to open for another, God knows how many years. You know, CPS does it all the time with charter schools. I don't understand how you can have a law that says a charter school that's starting up can share space and co-locate with an existing CPS school, but an existing CPS school can't share space.
This is a rule that went into effect August, so we can't, this is a state law, and we can't do that for charter schools either. Any CPS facility as of fall 2012, this is legislation, we cannot put two schools in one building without going through the full process that we're going through with the other schools. So you won't
But if that's going to
see
take
that.
effect in the fall, I mean, seriously, this is a very urgent situation here. If that law takes effect in the fall, why can't we do something about it now? This is January.
And is there any way to expedite that process?
Yeah.
It's potential, we can look into that.
I mean,
Got a lot of swap lawyers who would work around it.
Hi, my name is Jill Wool. I belong to Chicago WALE, ChicagoWALE.com. I am also a member of Raise Your Hand for Illinois Public Education. And I'm a new parent at Lincoln, and like the other parent, Lincoln has exceeded all my expectations. And for that, I really thank the site-based administration team, the principal, the teachers, and the entire community that has built the school. I received the letter, I think that you sent to CPS, the local school council sent to CPS. There was one thing that wasn't in it as a priority, and I'm wondering if we can open up discussion on that, which was keeping the attendance boundary together. In my mind right now, moving children to different schools merely moves the problem. It doesn't solve it.
The reason that we didn't put that recommendation in the letter was because we didn't have consensus on it. I don't know, when you're just talking about moving kids around, we're not just talking about moving kids around. We're looking for a place to put, 200 kids that we don't have room for in another building for a couple of years so that, we can work on a long-term solution, and hopefully CPS will come up with a long-term solution for us. So, I don't know if that answers your question about the LSC.
Well then, Adam, just a follow-up question to what was discussed before, per Senate Bill 630, if the whole thing with LaSalle had gone through, wouldn't you have had to announce that be December 1st too?
Boundary redraws and establishments are not part of SB 630.
But that would be phasing out LaSalle, which would be essentially a school closure.
It's actually not changing, it's just changing the structure of the school, it's not actually changing the school itself. It's a nuance in law. The closings, phase outs, and co-locations, we have to go through the SB 630 process. Other things, we have to go through the normal board process and community process, but there is no SB 630 in relation to that, because it wouldn't actually make LaSalle as a school go away and a new school reopen.
So the attendance boundaries could be changed this year?
Attendance boundaries could be changed for fall 2012.
And is that on the table?
Again, everything's on the table, we're talking about it, but it is not a current recommendation or proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, George Atkinson, and two second graders here and have been part of the community for 9 years with kids Lincoln. A comment and a couple of quick questions. It seems to me that the tone of this conversation is a little bit more, as we stated, the first person who's got up here, bringing a sense of the parameters of the discussion. This is really informative. There's a lot that we don't know. There's been a lot of talk on emails and after school, before school, amongst the parents as to what the real story is. And you understand our skepticism after the last meeting. A lot of us felt like we're blatantly lied to. So that's where we're starting from. So given the time frame that we talked about, it seems to me that there should be another meeting that would occur in 30 days, where we're probably going to come back to more informed opinions as to what we think might be solutions. The comment to the crowd is that it's really up to us to come together and be vocal. Having gone through this with Michelle and a number of people with Lincoln Park Development, we saw that groundswell, but it took 2 years. Now, the end result made me personally a lot more pessimistic about the system. Obviously, the former meeting with CPS made us pessimistic that we will be heard, but I just want to remind everybody that it's still up to us to be as vocal as possible, because if we're not, and frankly, we don't have at least twice as many people for the next meeting here, then shame on us for not really being heard. My understanding is that the Lincoln parents and community, I understand that the petition that was signed by LaSalle has got many more signatures than we do. So a rally cry to the audience. But
We're up to 400.
Almost half. But two pointing questions, and forget the direct nature of my first one. You're offering yourself up as our point person to CPS, which we really appreciate because we need that. It would have been great to have JC here to represent CPS personally, but how long have you been involved in CPS? How long have you been employed by CPS, and what's your historical perspective of how long this before?
I'm not going to get into my personal history of CPS. I'm happy to discuss.
How long have you worked for CPS? This is a question.
I'm sorry?
This is a question. John, JC has been here for I'm just curious how long you've worked for CPS.
It's part of public record if you'd like to get into that, but I don't think that it's...
Listen, I wasn't being, just ask a question.
Okay, so I'm here to help problem solve for the students.
Just a question. I'm sure it's on people's minds. Second question, there's got to be a historical perspective. Here we are, a successful school that's bursting at the seams. What do we do? And I don't know the answer. And given the historical perspective may be different, because at that time where they built out another school, if they built another school or a new school, CPS might have had some money. We don't know. But are there any analogies you can provide to us to say, listen, I've been working on this, and boy, if we could do at Lincoln what we did at this school in 82 or 2002, I'd just be interested to know if there are any comparisons that you can speak to that can help us, again, come back with more informed opinions as to what we want.
So we have been working, we have been working with the board office to go back in time to see what are some other solutions we've had to this particular situation, and would like to have that conversation and bring it back to the principal and the LSC in the community.
Is there one you can cite? I appreciate the indirect nature of your answer, but is there one situation you can cite? Again, you're our advocate.
Right.
Is there
And
one?
that's why I'm here listening to the audience. I cannot cite a specific example tonight,
Okay.
but happy to look into it.
Yeah, hi, my name is Eddie Barrett. I've just recently moved to the area. More of an observation and a request, please. First of all, I find it amazing to hear tonight that you're having to deal with this situation now. I mean, demographic changes are not things that creep up on you overnight. So the fact that you have to send an inspector here to wander around the corridors for 3 hours and tell you something you should have done 5 years ago, I find quite shocking. And not intended at you, how long you work for CPS, but that is quite ridiculous.
Public record.
Where I come from, that we know what the demographics will be, including her. She was a bit surprised, wasn't she? But my request, we moved to the area recently. We bought a house here from abroad. We contacted the school specifically because of the French program, which is, to our understanding, the best in Chicago. And, we bought a house just south of Armitage. And now we find, on the grapevine, nobody actually formally informed us that we're potentially going to be outside the zone where this lovely little girl can go to learn French and attend the rest of the fantastic school program. I think that's quite ridiculous. I really would like to have some clarity on the timetable because, quite frankly, we need to make some decisions about where we're going to live in the city. I'm sure other people are in the same situation. So this really can't drag on. We need some clarity. And we don't even have a kid at school yet. And we'd love to. We hear great things about it. We realise it's overcrowded, but somebody's got to sort the problem out.
I'm going to follow up on that. We've suggested a timetable to CPS. The LSC put a request in our statement about that. But can you tell us what is the timetable coming to a decision, at least for a short-term solution?
I cannot commit to a timetable. I can say that I feel the urgency in the room and am looking to move this along as fast as possible. Now, end of the day, this is a coordinated decision between CPS, City Hall, and the board. So I can't commit to what that timetable will be for those 3 entities. But I have heard the urgency from the audience. We sent people out to see what the overcrowding situation is. I've been speaking with Principal Armendariz. For myself, I can say I see the urgency. That's all I can commit to tonight.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Klein. I have 3 children here at Lincoln. I'm sorry, inside joke. Anyways, I do have 2 quick suggestions, because that's what you guys are looking for. But before I have those suggestions, I have a quick question. We're talking about seats, what's lawful and what's not to accepting people in, etc. What is lawful and not lawful kicking our kids out if we're already here? Okay, so what kind of guarantee, before we move forward, that our children, I've got a 7th grader, I've got a 5th grader, I've got a 3rd grader. What is to say that somebody's going to come and say, I'm sorry, you're no longer coming? Because I am an over Armitage.
So I can say that none of these solutions we've looked at will remove current students from any school.
What kind of guarantee could we ever have for that? Because you know how bureaucratic.
Yeah, so I cannot make a guarantee. I can say that of everything that we've talked about, from even the boundary around the SAL, nothing that we've considered in this situation up to this point, and everything I'm hearing here would obviously lead against it, would remove students from their current school and place them in another school. We do that in situations like we're going through with closing schools that are low performing, for reasons that are a drastically different conversation than we're having here tonight. But we have never had anything on the table that says that current students at Lincoln, at LaSalle, at any school would be moved from where they are today to a different school. And I cannot make a guarantee. I personally can't see that becoming any recommendation that I can stand behind.
Okay, that's as good as we get, I get. Michelle Smith, the suggestion or idea is something maybe you might know about. Okay, let's talk Grant Hospital here, okay? We've all been getting the emails that the fresh food pulled out. Can CPS talk to those developers to say, hey, can we take that space and rent it out or whatever? Is that something that we could talk about? How these?
Sure, I mean, that's one of the suggestions that I made. Because some of that building is under construction, some of it isn't. So it is indeed one of the suggestions that I made, that there's a facility that could be in the process of being rehabbed right now that might be available for some short-term rentals.
Is that the garage space or is that the hospital space?
No, the office building, the office building is what I've suggested, because that actually has 4 walls right now. So, but, you know, that's, CPS is going to have to explore that.
Okay,
So,
and then the other question is, let's say our dreams come true and they could just do that as a temporary situation where we can move some of the younger kids or older kids, whatever. Mr. Armendariz, I don't know if you know this in our CPS, looking at our 4 walls of this school, are there any options? I know we talked about there's no great options for, what did we talk about the last time? The trailers, okay. What about in the interim, building upon, our playground, having the kids in the interim, like Parker or Latin, or I think it's Latin, that goes over to the park to have their recesses or whatever temporarily and build above, and having our playground on top. What is the feasibility? I mean, because it seems like we have land.
Actually, one of our parents, Mr. Schroeder, who's an architect and a parent, he came up with 3 ideas for building an annex onto the playground, and I gave those plans to Adam over winter break. And so CPS has all those plans, including the prices. And one of the ideas that I had that wasn't in that plan that I remember was to build, although there would be no sunshine, but it would be build as a 2nd floor, beginning there up, to leave the playground vacant. But
So building on top of this
yeah, but it would be awfully
structure.
dark. We had to put it like
Right, but are you
fields,
supportive
floodlights in there or something.
of having a playground on top?
But
If that's what it
that was
takes?
also in the plan.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so because that's,
And the
And that's-
ACCS has all these plans, including the prices.
okay, those are my two suggestions, people.
And I can say those are, thank you, and those are, as Principal Armendariz said, those are part of the solutions that we're talking through right now.
And just so you know, we also did talk about Nellie Black. This is a $30 million proposition, $20 million to rent, 10 million to purchase, 20 million to renovate. And so we talked about that as well.
Okay.
The Children's Memorial. Nellie Black, I'm sorry, is a building that's part of Children's Memorial Hospital. It's on the northwest corner of Fullerton and North Orchard.
It's a red brick building.
They're definitely not counted in your numbers because they're under the board. First, I want to make a comment to Michelle. You know, I'm not a developer, I'm not in real estate, but anybody can see that there's a lot of real estate on the market right now. There's a lot of vacant real estate commercial property. There's no need for another real estate development that has residential and commercial underneath in the city of this area. I mean, take North Avenue, take Clark, take any of the areas, you will see lots of empty for sale units. So I can't see how that could be extended to more housing. Adam, thank you for coming. Your demeanor, your presentation is 10 times better than the gentleman before.
Even though I would say I don't work for CPS.
Your sales are awesome. If you look for a job down the road, maybe we'll talk. What I came here tonight to hear was more discussion, more presentation from CPS on what the plan is. I appreciate you guys coming here and listening. This is something you guys have done in the past. Can't cry about spilled milk. But you guys are sitting around having these same discussions, the same discussions that have been going on on Facebook, probably coming up with similar ideas and different ideas. What are you guys, and I know you're probably going to give me a very great sales answer, but where are you guys in your decisions? Where are you leaning towards? What is your best options? That was your best option that was presented to us last time. It just didn't work. Where are you guys going? I know you're going to tell me that we're observing all the options, but you're sitting around and having these meetings. You can't tell me that you came here today just to listen, because if you did, you wasted another 30 days.
Right.
Thank you.
And so I would agree that this conversation should have happened months ago. And I do want to be very honest. I came here to listen. We are having conversations, but I can't personally put my support behind a recommendation or proposal before we hear from the community. And I heard from LaSalle a month ago, and I'm hearing from Lincoln tonight. I'm happy again to work with the LSC to plan when's the right time to come back. Again, I'm willing to commit to come back on February 7th with much more concrete ideas, and I'm happy to have conversations with the community groups and continue to talk with Principal Armendariz in the meantime. I know that's an answer you expected to get, but it is honestly where I stand. I think it is important to gather community input. This is a very valuable process to me.
Adam, on that subject, can you distribute any proposals maybe 24 hours or 48 hours before, just so we can digest them before we come to a meeting on February 7th?
I would like to be able to do that. So.
I would like world peace.
Right. Right. No, I mean, I think it's fair to shoot for that if we are going to come here with proposals. We have communications protocols to follow, but I will make an effort to be as transparent ahead of time as possible.
Hi, Adam. I'm Colleen Day. I'm a parent here at Lincoln and a member of WALE. I also wanted to thank you for coming. The community that we live in, not just the school, but our greater community, is really shaking at its core right now. There is no end of talk of redistricting, not just our school, but of the 43rd Ward. And so I'd like to make a statement about that if I could first. Lincoln School, we understand, belongs to CPS, the bricks and the mortar, but this school was built by this community, not yesterday and not 2 years ago, not 5 years ago, but over the course of 40 years through our community organizations and people who got in
and fought tooth and nail for our children. We are an enormous success story in the city of Chicago because of a long history of hard work and commitment on the part of parents, teachers, and administrators. That said, the idea that CPS could change our boundaries is terribly painful to us, not because of housing values, not because of the value of our homes, but because this school represents so much more than what CPS tends to consider a seat for our kids' backsides. We are a community, we are neighbors. This is a neighborhood that wants desperately to stay together. And we will fight tooth and nail to stay together. A parent recently said to me, well, Colleen, you're safe. You're north of Fullerton and you have one child that's in. You're not so worried. My response was, like hell I'm not. Like hell I'm not. This is my school, it will stay my school. This is my community, it will stay my community. It's not just about a seat in a chair. We have Girl Scout troops here. When you start dividing this school into boundaries, you break up kids. Girl Scout troops and after-school events that we've built together, our sports teams, this is more than a butt on a chair. So, I'm emotional about that. I think that the Lincoln community needs to fight very hard to stay together with one voice and say the same thing. We are more than a school. We are neighbors and we are a community. Beyond that, there are some really great ideas brewing underneath. I've heard a lot of great talk. There are some really cool ideas out there that maybe will break the mold. So I appreciate you being here. We're going to push forward with some ideas that we have. We've got a lot of know-how and a lot of very vested people. And I know that given another 30 days, we'll come back to you with some very concrete examples that are not pie in the sky that will cost us $40 million. I think there are good ideas out there. So I would encourage us to stay together and stay united. And I thank you for hearing me tonight.
Thank you. And just real quick, if I can just say one thing in response to that, because I think that's a compelling statement. And, you know, I was asked earlier about what we have done in the past to address these sort of issues. While those things are important, the phrase break the mold is one of the things that we as a portfolio office are looking to do. So ideas that maybe sit outside of the normal things that CPS do are things that we want to talk about. So thank you for that statement, and I agree.
Hi, my name is Benson Farr. I have a second grader and a seventh grader at Lincoln. This goes back to I just want to go back for 1 second to the question of demographics. That road to Sale, you should have known about this population. Boom.
Yep.
However, and I'm a mathematician, so I want people to do some math. Okay. Well, let me ask you first. Do you know what the expected influx of kindergarten age to 8th graders is going to be in the next 5 years?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
So you said earlier that
It was a projection by CPS for next year.
860.
it's a number of new.
That's the projection for next year.
Right. So
In the whole school.
right. No, but I mean the projection for Lincoln Park. Because for example, I understand it's very difficult when we don't know what's going to happen to Children's Memorial. It's going to be developed. And under one of the scenarios of 800 units, so the average family size in Lincoln Park is 2.6 people per family. That's because we have so many young people. Now everybody multiply. That's 0.6 children. It's 800 units. So that's already counting in if you have a studio. I'm just saying that the numbers are really, really phenomenal. If you do a back-of-the-napkin calculation, I'm just a little worried that no one's actually, since I'm a scientist, we do these back-of-the-napkin calculations all the time. It seems like making decisions about the future without planning on how many children you're actually going to have. You can redraw the boundary however you want. If that hospital is within the boundaries, I think if we do the math, it's a much, much higher number, I believe, than people are talking about. And so let's not make the same mistake that gentleman pointed out that was made. I'd really encourage you to, I'm surprised you don't have the numbers now. I mean, it took me like 10 minutes. I mean, I won't go through all the stuff. It doesn't take very long to get the data. You said you have your demographics guys. So I would know by the next meeting if you could like tell us the expected demographics. Is that possible?
So I'm happy to come with that data.
I feel like without that, we're just talking about some future that we don't actually know how many students we're going to have.
Well, we are just, we are looking, first off again, let's all acknowledge the fact that this has come to this point is a lack of planning in the past, right? And there's no way I can stand up here and say that's not the case. I can say that we do think about starting with the new administration. We are looking more long-term. We are thinking what are the long-term demographic projections. What we want to talk about tonight are both what can we do for fall 2012 and what can we do long-term. I would not advocate for a long-term solution that's not grounded in long-term demographic projections. So we can, I agree with you, we need to have those numbers at our disposal and we can talk about that in the interim or next time I'm here. So I know is there a specific?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what you said. We're talking about 2012. It makes a very good point where I'm not in those numbers. I have 2 kids. I'm just one person.
Yep.
Could be having 3, could have 4, who knows? So what's in 2013 and 2014? That projection will help us set the parameters on what options we really need to do. Maybe if we are forced, just based off the projections, to have to build a new building, because what if we're having 1,500 kids?
Right.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Zadeh. I have 2 children here. I think all my ideas in terms of space have been addressed in one shape or form so far, but my question is more process-based. I don't understand CPS, I don't understand how it works. I'm very curious, when you get all these ideas, and even, obviously, you have a large list, and then you've got to funnel them, and then you've got to come with a short list, and then you've got to put numbers to them, and then you've got to go through some sort of evaluation process. So how does that work? Who's involved? And ultimately, who makes the decision?
So the ultimate decision, again, and I'll talk about the process, but the ultimate decision rests with the CEO, CEO Brazard, the mayor's office, and the board. At the end of the day, these recommendations are approved by them, and there'll be a date that the board votes on wherever we end up with. So those are the decision makers. The process that we go through is to, one, identify that there's a problem, build the analytics that go behind what is the scale of this problem in the near and long term. And then we start to look across the organizations within CPS that are affected by that. And it's more than just 1 or 2 people. It's the education side of things, and when the network chief is here, we bring in the network to speak with them. We talk to facilities because they're the ones that, if we make any changes, they're going to have to execute the work. We talk to capital planning and budgeting because any dollar we spend at one place is a dollar that we don't spend somewhere else. In the resource-constrained environment that we're in, that's a challenge. Then we start to look at programmatic side of things, so not even just in the actual school-based operations, but in the programming that's at that school. We work with our intergovernmental affairs team, we work with our family and community engagement team to think about how are the aldermen and other government officials going to feel about this issue, how's the community going to feel about this issue. And based on that, we start to reach out to the community, we reach out to the aldermen to start to engage with them, and that's how we start to continue through the process. That whole time we're thinking about what are the options, are there new options? As we're learning things from people, we're thinking what's viable, what's not. We just continue down that path until we get to a point that we feel like we have the best recommendation for the students in the city of Chicago, and that then escalates up to, again, the superintendent, or the CEO, the mayor, and the board.
So at this point, are you, given that you're seeking, our thoughts, are you at the big funnel right now? And I'm just, like, the time frame for you to even get through all of that analysis and to actually come to a decision seems months to me, if not years. So I'm just wondering, like, there's a short-term solution as we've discussed, which obviously needs to get decided very quickly, but it obviously has to go through a lot of that same scenario.
I think
Are you further along in any of that in terms of discussing this with the CEO with at least some of these options on the table?
Right, so I would say that the process to get to a short-term solution is much, because the data is more clear and straightforward. The concerns from the community and from the education side and from the social side, everything's a little bit more straightforward. So I think that, we talk about March is the time frame of the letter, and we're pushing aggressively. I think that it's high, good amount of probability that we can have a short-term solution in March. Will we have a long-term solution in March? I feel less confident about that because I want this to continue to go through the process. So, I would say, really, and where are we? After the community meetings last week at Lincoln and at LaSalle.
Right? So what constraints are you working under to evaluate these proposals?
So I personally, again, when I say everything's on the table, including innovative ideas we haven't thought of before, everything's on the table. I have legal requirements, which is why when we talk about co-locating for fall 2012, that I have to see how we can work with it. But I don't have any specific constraints right now. Part of this information gathering is, are there ideas that we haven't thought about, or are there inputs of things that we don't think it may be a good idea, but then becomes a good idea based on input tonight. So I personally have no constraints.
You know what? I'm going to ask you to hold that and get in line if you want to ask more questions.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's good to talk to you. It's a good thing. My name is Serge. I'm a foreigner. My son is not here anymore. My son used to do the piano here. He won the state science fair here. We went to the south and participated. We left to the south and come to Lincoln. My son is not here anymore. My son is about to paint. And we got this school, I don't think my son didn't know what to paint.
Can't hear you.
We got this school, I don't think my son really wanted to go to the painting. When my son was at the side, and I was living aside, and when my son moved to Lincoln, I really discovered the spirit of the community, the neighborhood. I know a lot of people here. And I was shocked when I heard, because as a foreigner, I love this country for the spirit of America. People coming together to do something, to take some risk. That's why I really love this country. Because when I take my son here, I don't know whether they're friends, whatever. And you cannot solve quantity with breaking human factors. And I really believe that as good as an individual, and there'll be a solution to the human problem. And I just want you to think, because also I live suffer for hermitage, which means if this would have been a bag, you could bury something or somebody where it is. I think that it's good to consider this. There's a problem, for sure. To the extreme, you should give a transitional period, at least. We're in the middle of a financial crisis, recession, very stress. It brings it to add another stress with kids, education, and I really believe that you need to take some time before we come into rural. I love this school, first of all, what a wonderful name. All the teachers, these are neighborhood schools, the spirit of Lincoln, I started here. So please, listen to the people before you make your decision. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Kim Morrow, and I'm a parent here, and I have 2 children. So first I want to start off by saying that I'm a little baffled because I know for a fact that our principal has worked tirelessly for the last 2 to 4 years giving you guys demographics and plans because he is seen as person. I know that he's giving you comprehensive plans that you're talking about. You're talking and you're looking at us and you come to the LaSalle with the LaSalle plan and you're like, oh, no, we don't want to do that. So I'm going to say kind of what I think everybody's thinking here. We need a short-term plan, obviously, because next year we're not gonna make it, there's only too many kids. But for CPS not to give us funding to build a new school, this man who stood up here said that his son thrived here. He's going to Walter Payton, one of the best high schools in this city. This is what CPS wanted. They wanted Lincolns, they wanted Paytons, they wanted LaSalle's, and now they're tearing them all down because they don't want to throw money. I'm going to say right now, the biggest solution is that you are going to have to build Lincoln a new school. My kids are safe. They're here. I understand, but we need the money, and I understand that there's lots of other schools, but we can be an example for CPS, and you should raise us up, and you should applaud us, and you should say, look what these families have done, look what these teachers have done. We have Mrs. Weiss is sitting here. She's been here for 15, 20 years. Mrs. Bakel's been here. I mean, our teachers are here forever. They don't want to leave. So you need to set an example.
We're not a day over 30.
You need to set an example. Our school, your son's sitting here, right, Mrs. Weiss? Her son, yeah, that's already. So I'm going to say this. I know that we're supposed to be talking solutions and whatnot, and I don't have a hardcore solution. I know that we need to worry about next year. But I'm going to say, from me, one parent here, I'm asking CPS to throw money at the school.
Hi, my name's Catherine Anderson. I'm a parent. I live north of Armitage. We appreciate you being here. I want to preface my question just by letting you know I was previously the deputy budget director for CPS, so I have some understanding of this process and have actually executed the closing of several schools, which is a painful process. This is a painful process too, and I think it's a process that CPS hasn't often found itself in, because people are coming back to the public schools, and because in this neighborhood, people are having more children and the demographics are rising. So I know that there are processes and formulas that you use, but I think I know you know that we have to think out of the mold. The most important thing that I feel is while we all appreciate you being here and while we are all very grateful for you listening to our ideas, the next time we meet, we want decision makers in the room for CPS. It's unfair to however many parents are here, however many teachers are here, to have us come and give you our thoughts and for us not to have transparency about how those thoughts are being put into place, and for us to know the timeline, and for us to see that. For us to, if you want our input, we're giving it to you, but we want to see our input actually considered and things coming out of it. So thank you for being here, but we want decision makers at the next meeting. Thank you.
Have a particular question. I just have some things I wanted to, since you weren't here last time, talk about that. Last time a lot of people stood up and said, I'm south of Armitage, because it was clear that that's where the border was going to be drawn. And now we're standing up telling you we're members of We Are Lincoln Elementary. And the last time, Mr. Amadera stood up, and Michelle Smith stood up, and parents stood up, and teachers stood up, and said, this is why we want to stay Lincoln. And now we're telling you some proposed solutions, and you're asking us for ideas. But I think the thing that you need to understand overall is that we want to stay Lincoln. We don't want to be split up. So in terms of short-term solutions, those are things you can mix up and figure out where to put extra students, and we're grateful for that. But in terms of long-term solution, like Kim Morrill just said, we think you need a bigger facility so that we can stay Lincoln Elementary as a bigger facility. whether it's on this site, because I'm not an architect, or whether it's at one of the developments that's going on across the street from this elementary school, I think we need a bigger building, and we can't ignore that Ogden got a brand new school, even though that's under a different administration. We don't want to split the district, so I just want to make sure you hear that cry as point number one, is that people are moving into this neighborhood to be part of this school. They're moving into the district. We've moved 3 times and stayed in the district specifically all 3 times. So I'm not, as you say, even though you say that our students are all safe, or there's no plan to take our students out of school, there's not a person in this room that's not concerned that that could happen, particularly after how things were expressed to us last time, quite rudely. And then 2 days later, we find out that everything that we were told is not what came out in a letter to us. Or in the newspaper the next day. Well, we pay high taxes to be in this neighborhood, so we all have made commitments to this school. We've all made donations to this school. We have a fundraiser every year, and when Mr. Almadeira said, you know what, we want to put a smart board in every room, and we need like 15 more this year, in 10 minutes at that fundraiser, they had those 15 smart boards. The community has built this school and wants to, and that's why we want to keep it together. We don't want south of Armitage to go to a different school. And I think I think this is a good turnout. I think there were a few more parents here last time. I think part of the reason you don't have as many is because I think people were completely dismayed by the fact that we were dismissed by, he was the CFO or the COO, we were dismissed by him. I mean, it was really kind of backhanded every time somebody told them they didn't agree with his solution. So I think that maybe you had some people who really thought it doesn't matter what we say. And yet here we still have this turnout. We have now, as of before I came here, 400 people signed up for We Are Lincoln Elementary, and that's just a grassroots that has just started. So I think we want more room for this school, and we want you to come up with the best solution, whether it's with our help or not, but it does take Chicago Public Schools putting money into Lincoln Elementary, because we do it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Susie Gurry, and I'm a proud member of WALE. I feel like we're doing this awkward dance. We need information, we need to know how much money we can spend, we need plans, we want ideas. Nobody can sort of finish their ideas without getting information from you, and so we're sort of stuck. But you want ideas. So yesterday, my husband and I asked some architects friends to come over, Ann Clark and Michelle Sakai. Can you stand up for a second, Michelle? To throw around ideas. Michelle is not even a Lincoln parent, she's a parent at Bell. But she believes in what we believe in, which is keeping this community whole. And she fought for years to keep Bell whole and came up with many ideas that they loved. And you will not lack for great ideas. You definitely will not. They're here. You can get Michelle's number, you can get Ann Clark's number. There's plenty of ideas, very concrete that it's not worth it to go into right now, but they're there. The only option that absolutely doesn't work is separating this community. And I would like for you to come back next month and say that that option is off the table and that there are many other options that you will consider. But I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to beg you, to please take that option off the table.
Feels a little bit like deja vu because we were just here talking about a month ago. I do appreciate that you're here. I do appreciate that the tone, the demeanor of this conversation is great and collecting information. I'm sure in your mind there are probably 2 or 3 top ideas which seem the most reasonable, the most feasible, the most affordable. I understand your position, which is you couldn't share them because you'll be talking them later. But you do have to understand, it is a little frustrating for us all to be back here again having this conversation. I am a member of Lincoln Elementary and proud to be so. I think at the core of this is, at the core of our community is really keeping the families together. I would make an appeal as well, and I apologize for those of you who heard me ask this or appeal to this topic last time we met, is that at the core of our families as well are our children. And there are several families, some of them represented here and others not, who are impacted by a division of the community if you live south of Armitage. And that is, for myself, who has a child here and other families and has a younger sibling at home, the proposal that was on the table before was, with no guarantee, potentially sending 2 children in one family to different schools, which, just as families are at the core of Lincoln, again, children are the core of families, and bringing them up does not make any sense whatsoever. So I'm making the same appeal as I made before, and then I'll be done, to please make sure that we are not breaking up families, that children are forced to go to different schools.
I'm Thad Long. I've got kids at Lincoln. I have a 4th starting the fall of 14. We love the school. We love the school primarily because it's our neighborhood. I'm not really worried about a short-term solution. I know a lot of you are. I think that short-term, you just go to some double-wide trailers in the park and right over here. And a lot of kids who go to school during the day for a couple of years. It won't be very attractive, but we'll get through it. For me, a long-term solution is much more important. Our kids will be going to this school for a long time. And I think that the one thing we got to keep in mind is the political nature of it and our conversations with the alderman. I watched the development on Webster and Lincoln, and we had 2 different aldermen go through that from the beginning and how that changed. And our current alderman was very opposed to that. At the same time the development went through, no problem. I think the only thing that went against was a loading dock on Lincoln. So at the same time, there were a lot of conversations. I was personally pro that. I had a lot of friends that weren't. At the end of the day, though, I didn't feel like anyone was heard. And I think this is far more of an important issue because it affects the children and our future. So my one request, I have 2 suggestions. One, the reason why this school is the most successful is because, one, it's an affluent community with huge parental involvement. Let's just be honest. And our involvement is an enormous part of its success. Because of that, I think that there are so many voices and we all want to be heard. But at the same time, it's going to be wildly overwhelming for you or anybody downtown. So maybe on our end, we find one person to represent us that is either a volunteer in our group or that is a consultant or attorney that we pay to represent us to really take this seriously, because we can have a meeting like this every 30 days where we'll all come to you and over time it will dwindle and very few will show up and it might lose steam. So number one, I think it would be a good idea if we had one voice that was a reflection of the majority of us, whether it was our personal opinions or not, but really the majority. 2, I would stress a lot of conversation with the current alderman and a lot of pressure to make sure that, Alderman Smith, that you have a vision. It's very easy to say a development can't happen without the changing of zoning. I've been in probably 50, 60 meetings, maybe 100 of these same topics on development in Chicago. But I can tell you, it's easy to say behind closed doors, this deal will not happen unless there's a public school here. So I've heard things like that happen, and I've heard them said a number of times. And we need more political representation right now in this neighborhood ever than ever before. And for me, in my opinion, you doing something to help this school will be your reputation forever. And you'd have this position forever. But we need someone to stand up, if you want, and say, hey, I'm listening, this is what I want, and this is what I think should happen. And in my opinion, we'll never ever see a site that should be more public than the children's site, with more thoroughfare and transportation access, ingress, egress, sunlight, and that should happen. And if anybody can have a better idea of where we can build a school that can hold so we can actually broaden our boundaries and maybe have a magnet section or open up and add to the French division, whatever we want. Unless we have space, we have no options. And that's the only place where we can really, build a big enough school that can access and that can hold the transportation and is so close to the ball, etc. So, and by the way, this block is worth a lot of money. Single-family homes in this block, this would be probably the best block in Lincoln Park if if it was single-family homes. So we got a huge asset you're dealing with. We've got a good alderman that needs to hear and stand up and show some leadership. But we're ready to work with you, and I'm excited to do it. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Rachel Cole. I'm a member of WALE, and there are a few things I like less than public speaking, but this is so important to me. I'm a first grader here at Lincoln. I have an incoming kindergartner, hopefully to Lincoln next year, and I have a 7.5-month-old at home. I'm seriously concerned about the possibility that I might have to clone myself and possibly pick up and drop off 2 kids at different schools at the same time next year. And I also just want to say that I feel as though, you know, the property available at the Children's Memorial Center is available now, and if there's anything we can do to get hold of that, once it's gone, it's going to be gone. So I really just hope we can keep working together and keep my family together.
I'm just going to interrupt for a moment. I see the line in the back, and I'm going to make a determination that Ms. Smith is going to be the end of the line. I'm happy to run these meetings and open them up to everybody, but they really can't go on. So
And I'm willing to stay after, just to talk one-on-one.
that's something great.
I gotta close the building at 9.
I'm willing to stay outside. It's not a normal January, so I'll be outside.
My name is Nora Tossi. I have 3 children and a third that will hopefully attend Lincoln in about 4 or 5 years. I just wanted to remind CPS and the community that what makes Lincoln Lincoln is not solely just the teachers and the education. It is the library, the greenhouse, the auditorium, the gymnasium. While we may need seats for students to sit, we are outgrowing the entire facility. This auditorium cannot seat even, I think, 1/4 of the student body to watch another class perform. The library has become crowded. I look at the only option as rebuilding the school. Adding an annex, I don't think is going to solve space in, other parts of the school. I know other schools have relocated the entire school during construction at their, main site. Would that be an option? I know there's a place, there's a former school on Larrabee, just south of North Avenue. Used to be a school. I think it's used now for training for police.
Near North. Near North.
Near North, yeah. Can we possibly relocate this entire school? And, I believe we're worth that pie in the sky. I believe that should be something that we should, that should be our aim. That should be our goal. So, it's, if children's isn't an option, we rebuild. As much as I would hate to see this school torn down, I think rebuilding is, is really the only way to go. So.
Thank you.
Adam, you're making a note to that point. The police department is controlling that building, and I believe it is because the foundation's condemned.
It's police and fire department.
Police have it, correct. So you may want to check on that street.
My name's Amy Markley. I'm a member of WALE, and I'm the mother of a 14-month-old son. We bought our home specifically to be in this neighborhood because of the school, and we were looking forward to making this our neighborhood for life. My husband said he wanted it to be carried out of our house. If the school changes, we'll probably be moving, and we'll probably be taking a real loss in our home. So this is devastating news for us as community members, as parents, and just financially as well. And I have 2 suggestions. One, I just want to speak to anything that involves any capital expenditure in order to enable us to have our son and the other children we hope to have attend Lincoln, whether it is the building of a new building or less. Anything to accommodate as well as to address the needs of parents currently, and kids currently, because that's critical. But I also want to suggest something that others have been saying that costs not a dime, and that is to be sure that the Children's Memorial Site is not part of the district, because that's going to have a huge impact on families like mine who are hoping to have our children be here for the next 15+ years, and the many, many baby buggies that are being pushed south of Armitage of families just like mine who have moved here for the very same reason. And it would cost not a penny, and it just seems really problematic to me that a developer could come in and advertise in Lincoln School and make a lot of money off of that for homes that don't exist yet, when families have already purchased homes and made a big personal sacrifice and a big personal commitment to the community, and that we would lose out and be cut out instead. It just seems so wrong.
My name is Dave Armstrong. My wife Grace and I have two children that are here at Lincoln and another one on the way. Just a quick comment. One of my observations about the quality of this community, well, we've been talking about the physicality of the space itself, is the interaction, the system that's been built here. Mr. Armendariz as a principal, the teachers who support Mr. Armendariz, who has the teachers' backs, the LSC and the Friends of Lincoln, who work to raise money and develop a curriculum. I think from my perspective, what I'm asking for is that not necessarily the building, but that the system that's been built here be kept coherent. Thank you.
Yes, I was previously introduced. My name is Doreen Weiss, and I'm on the faculty here at Lincoln School. Currently, I have 24 children, so that I'm responsible for directly. But I wanted to be sure that what I said last month is repeated for you, Mr. Anderson. I think it's important for you to hear firsthand some of my concerns. I'm very interested in you knowing about the diversity here at Lincoln School. We have a very diverse population, not necessarily represented in this room right now. And a lot of our diversity comes from the southern part of our boundary, of our attendance area. Presumably you know that by now. And just to repeat what some other people have said, we have a mission here at Lincoln School, and it's a historic mission, and our mission is to serve that diversity and to honor it and to speak to it. It's part of our school improvement plan. It's part of who we are at Lincoln School, everything from the kindergarten to the adults who are here. To change the boundaries and to take out the diversity from this school and send it to another school would change fundamentally what Lincoln School is. The children who are here, who have advantages, would in fact be disadvantaged by not having the exposure of children from every different economic level, every different race. And of course, those children who are no longer in Lincoln, they would lose out, we feel, tremendously, because they would not be able to have the opportunity for a Lincoln School education. So I wanted you to know that that's something that I would say most of our faculty members, if not all, feel very strongly about, as well as the parent body. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Eric Gurry again. I just want to make a quick comment here to follow up on, I think, what you've been hearing from a lot of people. And it has to do with the district. There's lots of conversations we can have about facilities and structures. What people are most concerned about that are in this room and beyond this room that have been engaged in this conversation is the community. And it's going to be very difficult to have an open and two-way conversation with CPS when we as a community are going to be constantly concerned about having a knife stuck in our back. And that knife is the knife that will sever the district. So for this to be a productive conversation between the community and CPS, splitting the district up on a long-term basis can't be one of the many things we're considering, but it's not currently a present option. It's got to be expressly off the table, and we can move from there to have a productive conversation about how we can all solve this great problem that we have, that we're doing so well, that we're so popular that kids want to get in here, and figure out how to export this model to other neighborhoods in the city.
I guess I'm batting cleanup. I don't think there's anyone behind me, and I'm Michelle Smith, and I'm your alderman. And I just wanted to state on the record that I'm very pleased at what I would call progress. because when that last public meeting and the meeting that I had prior to that with CPS officials, in which I was told some of the very disturbing things that were said at our last meeting, was, in my opinion, no way to run the railroad. So I'm pleased that you're here to listen. I do want to say this comment to my community. One of the worst things about that last proposal that was made is it was about the politics of scarcity. It said, let's set ourselves against one another and let's destroy a really good school so that our kids who are at a really good school, you build on the successes like one of the parents so ably said, but I will make one change. CPS shouldn't throw money at this school. They should invest money in this school. These are great schools, and Lincoln Park is the area that is frankly keeping the city of Chicago going financially. And therefore, I sincerely hope, and I am delighted that CPS has opened the door a little bit to talk about things like capital investment. You know, the day after our meeting, when we were told there was not a dime to be spent in Lincoln Park, CPS announced its over $600 million capital plan for the rest of the city. And I don't begrudge any of those schools, but we all know, there are so many of us who are professionals and involved in things, we know that capital planning takes some time. So one of the reasons that I'm so pleased you're here is I want to make sure that we get our oar in the water to be part of the CPS capital plan for the year in which we can be ready to do something for Lincoln Elementary, whether it's a new school or in addition to this wonderful facility, that we can be part of that capital plan. That's my objective. And I also want to assure everyone here that I also don't want to be scarce about Lincoln Park. I want to make sure that every family who moves in our community has a wonderful seat at a wonderful public school, including all of our public schools that are available here. You know, we want to lift up all our public schools. So I just want to again affirm that, and then I have one request myself. I want to affirm that my job as your advocate is to indeed to lobby the CPS on your behalf, just like you are doing through WALE and your LSC. We should keep up those efforts to lobby for our piece of the capital plan. I do have one request, which is about the process. And I'm saying this publicly so everybody knows. I know that this community has been really frustrated at their inability to get the CEO of the public schools here. Me too. I've been trying to meet with CEO Brizard since I became alderman last May, and I haven't had that meeting either. So again, as the alderman here, as the elected representative of the 56,000 people in the 43rd Ward, I'm going to repeat my request to have a meeting with CEO Brizard and to meet with him on behalf of all these wonderful residents. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and just, I'll wrap up real quick.
Well, first I want to say, is there anybody on the council who has anything they'd like to say or anything they want to ask? Or we should.
I want to ask if you district children's out or give us their building and or build on to this in the state structure. Yes.
Anyone else? I would just add, just to reiterate what Catherine Anderson said, as much as
granted that's necessary or whatever. I think we need to get some real specifics and soon. And if you can get us anything ahead of time, you can email me or Mr. Armendariz, and we'll make sure that that information gets out to everybody so that when we come to the meeting, everybody will know, what direction we're moving in and what the real concrete possibilities are.
Absolutely.
Mark, I know you want to...
I just have a couple things. One, the last month we had a meeting, Jim Dispenza, who presented us on demographics, he asked that we can collect data of the number of siblings that families currently have that do live south of Armitage to get out a survey. I spoke to him, or emailed him yesterday, and said I had the letter to go, but does CPS still want that information now that Mr. Brizard had sent out that letter? He said, no, do not send out that letter because we don't need that information at this point due to the fact that we are not considering or recommending that the district, that our attendance area be split in half. So that survey will not go home, and I'll put it in Wednesday's Principals Digest because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, well, where's this survey? Well, it's not going to be done as of this point because Mr. Dispenza said it's not necessary. I want to highlight or reiterate something for you, Adam, that was brought up earlier by Dan Rudowski. We in this community, I should say, the parents in this community, have more than just money. This community has a lot of leverage. And what Dan mentioned earlier about using Children's Memorial as a piece of leverage, we need to think more than dollars and cents. What can we use so we're not always on the offense, but we're on the defense? Opposite. I don't like football. That's any sport. No, but the thing is that my point is this community has more. We can ask for more than just money from CPS. We have property. We have this building that's going to go up here with 700 proposed units. We have something, God only knows what's going to go over Grand Memorial, or whatever it's called, Lincoln Park Hospital. We can say to them, CPS can say to them, you want to go to the school, you want to advertise, then you must give CPS X. And that's what we need